All right, let's dive right into one of the biggest questions out there. To be conscious, to actually feel anything, do you need a brain made of biological meat? Or could a machine, a computer running the right program, one day wake up and feel something too?
I mean, really think about that for a second. Is that feeling you get watching a sunset or the sharp sting of a paper cut, is that something that's only reserved for living things like us? Or could a sufficiently advanced AI truly experience those things? To even start to unpack that, we've got to look at the case for code.
So one side of this whole debate argues that consciousness is really just about information processing. It's about what a system does, not what it's made of. The hardware is irrelevant.
Now, there's a big idea behind this, and it's called computational functionalism. It's a huge theory, especially in the world of AI, and it basically says this: if you can perfectly copy the functions of a conscious brain, you've copied consciousness itself. It doesn't matter if you use neurons or silicon chips.
To get what this means, think about something super simple, like a logic gate. You can build an electrical AND gate with switches and a light bulb, or you could build a mechanical one with a bunch of levers and dowels. They look totally different. They're made of different stuff, but they do the exact same job. Functionalists would say consciousness is just a vastly, vastly more complex version of that same principle. The material just doesn't matter.
And you know what's really wild? Almost all of the big scientific theories of consciousness we have today are built on this meat-neutral idea. Whether it's GWT or IIT, they all define consciousness by its computational architecture, by how the information is organized and wired up. And that means, at least in theory, a non-biological mind is totally possible.
Okay, but that can't be the whole story, right? There's a really powerful counter-argument, and it says that our specific biological hardware, the meat in our heads, is absolutely essential.
To get this, let's use an analogy. Think about the difference between a roll and a realizer. The roll of fragility is just the tendency to break when you hit it. But the stuff that realizes that roll is completely different in glass versus cast iron. One has this messy molecular structure, the other has tiny microcracks. Same property, totally different physics underneath.
And this brings us to the crucial point. Maybe consciousness depends on the specific biological realizer, our unique neurochemistry, and not just the computational job it's doing. Maybe that what it's like feeling of seeing red or tasting salt comes directly from the squishy stuff, not just the stuff's function.
And here's an idea that really hits home. You can run a perfect computer simulation of gravity, right? Model every single particle and force. But your computer will never, ever produce an actual gravitational pull. Simulating a process isn't the same as actually doing it. So you have to ask, could the exact same thing be true for consciousness?
Okay, so if philosophy gets us to a bit of a stalemate, where else can we look? Well, let's go way, way back into evolutionary history, because the very first animals have a really surprising story to tell.
So some pretty recent genetic work has completely upended the animal family tree. It now looks like comb jellies were the very first group to branch off from our common ancestor. And that's a huge shock because comb jellies have nervous systems, but sponges, which we thought were first, don't.
This implies something truly mind-blowing. Neurons, the building blocks of brains, might have evolved only once. Just a single time. And from there, some animals, like sponges, actually lost them over time. But other lines, like ours, took that single invention and just ran with it.
And this is where it gets really fascinating, because there are two totally different ways to build a nervous system. Comb jellies have a purely electrical one, but our lineage, we developed an electrochemical system. We have electrical sparks inside our neurons, but to get the message across to the next neuron, we use a complex chemical soup of neurotransmitters.
So you have to wonder, why? Why did nature go with this messier, slower, more complicated system? Purely electrical signals are way faster. What was the incredible advantage that this chemical gap gave us that allowed for the evolution of everything from a fish to a human being?
So all of this, the philosophy, the deep evolutionary biology, it brings us to a massive dilemma. It's a fork in the road, and depending on which path we take, we end up in two completely different places.
Just look at this. If you decide to extrapolate from our computational role, our ability to think and process information, then yeah, it seems plausible that a super advanced AI could be conscious, but you'd probably doubt it in something simple like an insect. But if you extrapolate from our biological realizer, our shared, squishy, electrochemical meat, then you're way more likely to grant consciousness to a fish and be extremely skeptical of any AI.
So you see the problem, right? We've set up this bizarre competition. On one side, you have machines that might one day think like us, and on the other, you have animals that are built like us. Our intuitions just get pulled in totally opposite directions.
And that leaves us with these huge, profound questions. How can we possibly tell if it's the role or the realizer that matters? What is it about our meat that could be so special? Look, not having the answers here isn't a failure. This is the frontier. This is where the most exciting science is happening right now. And that boils down to one final thought that we're all going to have to face. As we get better and better at building machines that can talk and reason and act just like us, we will be forced to decide. If an AI looks you in the eye and tells you it's in pain and it behaves exactly like a person in pain, does it actually matter what it's made of? Does it matter if there's nothing really on the inside? That's a question that's moving out of philosophy books and into our reality, and probably a lot sooner than any of us think.